Letitia, I don't know what you're going to do. You may just have to divest those assets. If you don't have the money, you're going to have to sell the house in Norfolk, Virginia, as the grand jury issues subpoenas in the Letitia James case. So this is new developing, just coming in right now. The New York Post reporting that Letitia has no money. No money because the Republicans, as they should, are holding it up in the state government there. The GOP is pushing back on this $10 million slush fund that she's got, paid for courtesy of New York taxpayers to cover her legal bills. Because their point is, you know what, this is a personal situation. You know, you were doing something funky, possibly, allegedly, with your mortgage application, and now you expect taxpayers in the city of New York, in the state of New York, to actually fund your very expensive Abby Lowell attorney. He's the guy who represented Hunter Biden. He does not come cheap. And so she needs that $10 million. She doesn't have any money. Now the grand jury is issuing these subpoenas. The lawyer is on the clock, and according to a letter obtained by the New York Post, New York GOPers are saying she's not going to get access to the funds. And they're right. Like, this proposed use, they write, of public money is a gross misuse of taxpayer dollars, you think? It undermines public trust in government and sends a troubling message that elected officials and state employees are entitled to publicly funded legal defense, even for matters entirely disconnected from their public responsibilities. DiNapoli, he's the state controller. He would need to sign off, you see, on drawing down the $10 million to reimburse one Letitia James for all her expensive legal bills. And he's not going to be able to do that without some consensus there. So if the Republicans are standing in the way of this, and they absolutely should, I think taxpayers are going to increasingly get kind of annoyed. But here's the deal. She's going to have to come up with some kind of way to pay this off, because she's facing 30 years in prison. USC 18-10-14 false statements to obtain a federally insured loan can land you 30 years in prison, ladies and gentlemen, not to mention false statements to the government. FHA loans, which is what she got there in Virginia, they are issued by the federal government. So this is like, it's sort of amazing, because what she was trying to go after Donald Trump for was a private transaction between him and Deutsche Bank. It's funny because you kind of wonder, like, did she know like that mortgages could be sort of manipulated in some way, because she was trying to do that? And she, by the way, was doing it with federal money, thereby putting taxpayers at risk. It's like a whole other ballgame. Like, this is a serious crime. Whereas the one that she was trying to go after Donald Trump with was a civil crime. And by the way, they couldn't get to first base. Well, I guess they did. They got the $500 million fine. But you heard the appellate court comments. I played them for you multiple times. Maybe we'll have to resurrect those next week. But the appellate court judges are like, hey, wait a second. There was no victim here. Whereas in this case, there could be a victim, because you're relying on a federal loan application about this being a primary residence instead of a secondary residence. Obviously, it can't be her primary residence if she's living in New York as Attorney General in 2023 and getting a mortgage in Norfolk, Virginia in 2023. So the FHA requires the property to be the primary resident within 60 days of closing, and that wasn't the case. In fact, take a look. Here is the document that she signed. I'm going to lean in to see this a little bit more carefully with you. She said in the document, I hereby declare that I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence. Oh boy, Tishy baby. It's not your principal residence. We know because the Daily Caller paid a little visit, right? We saw this video. This was awesome. I was talking to the reporter, actually. We were on Newsmax together recently. I was like, way to go, way to go, way to go. So they showed up at her home.
I'm just curious who the occupants of the home are, because there's...
Wasn't Letitia.
There are connections to New York Attorney General Letitia James.
You're trespassing.
Are you related to Letitia James?
Do you know her?
You're trespassing. Go in the house.
Do you know Letitia James? No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you, ma'am.
Don't pull up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
It's gonna be fine.
You well. Be well.
Don't come to my house no more. Well, they were very polite. So that's kind of a big issue. So there's this house, as I said, in Norfolk, Virginia, that she got a mortgage in 2023 on, and the mortgage actually stated that this would be her primary residence, because you see, she couldn't have gotten that special loan if it wasn't her primary residence, and therefore she lied. And she may have lied on this brownstone thing. That's the other allegation, because she has this brownstone that she's had since 2001 in New York, and she claims that it's 4 units instead of 5, because if it's 5 units, you don't qualify for the special extra super duper FHA loan stuff. I mean, unbelievable. And then, there's this doozy from 1983. We talked about this. She signed on to a mortgage as her father's wife. I mean, Tishy, come on. Is this why? You were so clued into the mortgage thing with Trump because you knew that, you could get a better rate if you did certain things, because you did it yourself. You did. And now you may not have any money to actually pay for all this, which is kind of funny, because remember what she said about confiscating Donald Trump's assets? I think they're going to have to confiscate hers.
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
So, Letitia, if you do not have the funds to pay for your lawyer, I guess you're just going to have to go with a public defendant then. And then if you don't have the funds to pay the federal government back, I guess they're just going to have to seize your assets. But I digress, because it's actually way worse than that. This is not just money. This is actual jail time. Okay, this is like a federal crime that is punishable up to 30 years, ladies and gentlemen, 30 years in prison. So this is pretty darn serious. She says she's totally innocent.
I will respond to these baseless allegations at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way, but I am 100% confident that it will not result in any criminal indictment or action against me, and that it is nothing more than a revenge tour, and that Donald Trump just ultimately got to the J's, and I was next.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Again, it sounds like you.
I wouldn't be so sure, because again, I'm going to go back to the 2023 mortgage that you took out in Norfolk, Virginia, where you insisted that it was actually your primary residence. Don't tell me that was a clerical error, as she's trying to say. Oh, just a clerical error. Just like, signing on as your dad's wife was some kind of clerical error. Just like saying you had 4 levels instead of 5 because you could get a better loan. That was a clerical error too, right? Tishy, honey, no, that's not going to fly. It's just not going to work. Like, you're a lawyer, for goodness sakes. I mean, maybe if you weren't a lawyer, one could say, well, I was naive. I didn't understand. Somebody else did this for me, blah, 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 blah. But no, you're a lawyer. Like, you actually have to know these things. You're held to a different standard, which is another reason why they're probably going to be taking away her bar license. She's not going to be able to practice in the state of New York. I know, Dawn, you were talking the other day about how she would still be able to probably be AG, because you don't actually have to have a license to practice law as the Attorney General, shockingly, in New York. But we'll see. I don't think she's going to be able to make it through the Ethics Committee on this one. But again, I think what's so fascinating here is that she could be facing federal prison, and that she's actually not going to have any money if the Republicans get their way to pay for Abby Lowell and defend herself. I mean, why should New York taxpayers have to pay for that, for goodness sake? She's trying to claim it's political because she wants access. You understand, guys, to that money. It's $10 million that she can use to cover her legal costs. So she has to try and say this is political, that it's not personal, even though I think it's pretty clear to all of us it's personal. You're the one that decided to go out on a limb and make a lie for your personal property that you were buying.
I have to ask you, I mean, there were reports today that the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into real estate transactions that you're involved with. I'm not validating that in any way, but I wanted to just ask you if you've received a formal notice of that at this point.
No, not at all. These allegations, Jen, are baseless. They have been discredited, refuted. There was a letter that was prepared by my attorney that was sent to Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General. And it's unfortunate that President Trump publicly attacked me a few days ago. And as a result of that, he telegraphed to the Department of Justice and to FBI that I should be targeted. You see, this is nothing more than an extension of his revenge, his retribution, and he finally got up to the J's. And so I stand prepared to respond to these baseless attacks with facts. And we look forward, obviously, to further discussions with the Department of Justice or any other individual who leaked this material.
So that's what she's going to continue saying, okay, that it is somehow a political vendetta against her. And that's how she's going to justify being able to use these funds. But again, I don't see it, because if you hadn't actually said you were your dad's wife, if you hadn't actually signed something where you literally state that this is going to be your primary residence while you're the AG in New York, buying a home in Virginia, then we wouldn't be here, right? The irony is sort of just amazing. I can't get over it. It's like Shakespearean. It's totally Shakespearean. Anyway, this is the soundbite that she's referring to. She's trying to say Trump wants to get me because it's me. Maybe, but I would say he's very cautious about how he handles this. Listen to how he phrases this. He's like, yes, she's a loser. She's bad for New York, but Pam will do what Pam needs to do, period.
I can say unrelated to that, she's a disaster for New York. She's a horrible, horrible human being. And I think she's a total crook. There's no question about it. But that's just my opinion. Pam's going to have to do what she wants. She's a very bad person. She's a very, very bad person who campaigned solely on, I'm going to get Donald Trump over and over again. She's a sick person. But that has nothing to do with what Pam does. Pam is going to do what's right. She always does. I've known her a long time.
So Pam is doing what's right. Pam was asked by the head of the FHA, William Pulte, to look into this because these would obviously be federal crimes and would set a very, very bad precedent if people think that they can go out and get a federal housing loan saying that this is my primary residence when it's not. That would be a problem, right, for the entire system. It's putting the taxpayer at risk. So William Pulte went to Pam Bondi at the DOJ. Kash Patel at the FBI has launched a criminal investigation, and now the Eastern District of the Virginia Court is issuing subpoenas because they need more information. As for her being political or him being political, I mean, don't kid yourself. She was going after him before she had ever even found a crime. She campaigned entirely on getting Trump. No.
The President of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
This illegitimate president who sits in the White House. That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president. His days are numbered. His days are numbered. We've got to get ready to mobilize, and we've got to get ready to agitate and irritate until victory is won.
Blah, 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 blah. And then there was the, too male, too stale, and too pale. That was another one of her chants. Well, you know what, Letitia, your days are numbered yourself, okay? And you're out of money, and you're not going to be able to pay for any of this. So I think it's kind of fitting that you're going to now have to sell your assets in order to cover your tail with your expensive legal bills if you decide to continue on with one Abby Lowell, the former attorney for one Hunter Biden.